Hi and welcome back. Well, if it's your first time here, my name is Andrew. If it's not your first time here, it's still Andrew. So today I'm going to be testing out one of the most underrated features you've got on the DJI Lito X1, and that's going to be cruise control. So if you've ever struggled to get perfectly smooth drone shots whilst juggling the speed, direction, altitude and camera movement all at once, then the feature of cruise control is going to change the way you fly completely. So in the video, I'm going to show you exactly how cruise control works, how to activate it, when to use it, and the main tip to get cinematic footage. Now, I'm also going to include 6 tips that will lift your footage to another level and tell you the biggest mistakes that new pilots make when they do use cruise control. So before I get started, if you could do the like, subscribe, notification bell and the hype, that would be greatly appreciated. It does help to grow the channel no end. So cruise control on the drone is basically a feature that lets the drone contain a constant speed and direction automatically without you having to continuously hold and control the sticks. So if you think of it like you got cruise control on a car, instead of you holding the sticks to maintain a smooth forward motion, the DJI Lito can lock in your current speed and direction automatically. So this means that the drone will keep flying steadily while you focus entirely on the camera movement and your competition. So it is one of the easiest ways to make your footage instantly look better and smoother, because one of the biggest giveaways of beginner drone pilots is the inconsistent movement. So tiny stick corrections that create little jerks and speed changes are hard to avoid. But with cruise control, that totally removes the problem and gives you perfectly smooth footage practically every time. Now, as I said at the beginning of the video, there are a few things you can do to help improve the footage. The first one is to always shoot at the highest frame rate you can. So go in for 60 frames a second and shoot at 4K. Because you can slow the footage down later in post-production if you want to. If you do shoot in a lower frame rate, this runs the risk of, if you're having to slow the footage down later on, it's going to result in the footage being quite jerky. So always shoot in a higher frame rate, because that's going to give you the better results. Now, the second tip is the one that most people make, which is the biggest mistake, and that's flying too fast. For cinematic footage, you want to have the drone going slowly, and a lot slower than you think, because a slower speed gives the viewers more time to actually absorb the scene. Now, the third tip is to use ND filters, because if you really want smooth cinematic looking footage, you need to get motion blur, and using ND filters like these ones I got from Freewell and shooting in pro mode using the 180 rule will really enhance your footage. So when you use ND filters, it means the amount of light that hits the sensor is reduced, and you use something called the 180 rule. And this means that your exposure should be twice that of your frame rate. So if you are filming at 60 frames a second, your exposure should be 1/20th of a second. Now, like I said, I use these ones from Freewell, and this is the standard 6/8 pack. They also do a bright pack for very sunny days, which has got a polarization filter built in as well. Now, they do come in a number of different strengths, so you can use the correct one depending on whatever the lighting conditions are when you're filming. So I've got the 2 packs, and as I said, these were the ones for the flip, but they do actually fit on the DJI Lito X1 as well. So you've got the standard day pack, which is the ND 8, 16, 32, 64, 128, and a polarization filter, which, as I said, is going to take the glare off if you're filming on the beach like I am today. And then you've also got a bright day 6 pack, which has got the polarization built in, and that comes in an 8 to 16, 32, 64, an ND 1000 and a UV filter. Now, with the UV filter, that's great for just everyday use if you just want to protect the lens from things like scratches, but they are really a worthwhile investment to get the best out of your drone. And if you do decide to buy a set of ND filters, there's a link in the bio below if you want to check it out there. Now, I will also be doing a complete video on using ND filters, and that's going to appear up here in the next week or so, and that will show you exactly how to use them, when to use them, and how to get the best from the ND filters. But to be honest with you, getting ND filters like these from Freewell are really a good, worthwhile investment for your drone. So going on to tip 4, and that's going to be combining the gimbal movement with the cruise control, because if you do this, it becomes even more powerful with gentle gimbal tilts. Since the drone movement is already being automated, your camera movements can now be a lot smoother, so you can try tilting up slowly, and that's going to give you nice dramatic reveals. And then the tip 5 is going to be to plan your shot. So before activating your cruise control, you really need to think about where the drone is heading. You don't want to lock onto any movement that's going to take you towards any trees or power lines or any sort of obstacles which are going to interrupt the flow of the drone. So always make sure that your flight path is going to be clear. And then the final tip, which is tip 6, is going to be using the cine mode, because using cine mode with the cruise control is going to limit the speed of your drone, and that means that it's also going to limit the sensitivity that you've got on the sticks. And again, this is going to create some softer movement overall for the drone. And whilst you are in cine mode, I would recommend as well that you go into the gimbal settings and you reduce the smoothness of the gimbal down as much as possible. So this means that when you do, say, do a tilt up, the gimbal is going to move nice and slow. You're not going to get any jerky movements. Now, even though cruise control is an incredibly useful tool, you still need to stay alert when you are using it. So although the drone may be flying automatically, you're still going to be responsible for the aircraft itself. So you really need to avoid using it if you've got any things like crowded environments or tight spaces, if there's strong winds or there's a lot of obstacles in the area, or if you've got anything which is unpredictable like animals, because this again can cause you problems when you are flying the drone. Now, cruise control may sound like a small feature, but once you start using it, you will quickly realise what a powerful tool it really is. Because it does allow you to separate the flight movement from the camera movement, and that's going to be the key to getting smoother, more dynamic and cinematic footage. So if you do own a Lito X1, it really is a feature that's worth mastering. And if you try it on your next flight, you're immediately going to notice the difference in your footage and the quality of it. And this is where I stop for 2 minutes and say I'm not sponsored, so if you could do the like, subscribe, the notification bell and the hype, that would be great. It does help the channel grow. There's also an option there for buy me a coffee, and any funds I get are going to go straight back into helping the channel again with new equipment. It also means that being a man of a certain age, I will have excuses to come down to the beach to make more films and not get dragged around clothes shops and supermarkets and do everything which absolutely ruins my day. So if you have got a bit of sympathy, there's always the option to buy me a coffee, and I'm going to crack on with the rest of the video. So to do the setup of the cruise control on the RC2 or the RCN3, there's a few things you need to do first. So the first thing is to go into the menu via the 3 buttons on the top right hand side of the controller. Then once you're in there, you go to control and you scroll down to where it says button customization and you select that. And then depending on your controller, you need to assign cruise control to a specific function button. Now for me, I like to have the cruise control linked to the C2 button, but obviously it's up to you to decide which one you want to use. You have got other options. For example, you can go in to have the auto exposure lock, increase or decrease the exposure evaluation, or into camera settings, adjust the focal length or the focus track, or switch between landscape or portrait modes. But with my setup, I just tend to have the exposure lock set to the C1 button and the cruise control set to the C2 button. Now, to activate the cruise control, it really is straightforward. All you need to do is to set the drone off in the direction you want to go to, and then just press the function button or the customization button, and that's going to lock in the cruise control to that actual direction. So I've got the drone set up now facing down the pier. I'm in 4K at 60 frames a second and I'm in cine mode. So I'm going to move the drone slowly forward, and then I'm just going to press the C button, and you can see now that it says the aircraft is in cruise control. And as you can see, there's no control going on. It's flying off totally autonomous down the pier. Now, if you want to as well, you can then layer up different maneuvers. So although the drone is going down the pier, I can then have the drone rising up. And then as the drone goes up, I can lock in cruise control again. And you can see now that the cruise speed has been updated, and also the drone is starting to climb. And again, that's totally autonomous. It's doing everything automatically. And again, now, if I want to take it a step further and I want to increase the speed, it is just a matter of pressing on the controller again, and then again locking in cruise control. And again, now it's been sped up to the new speed, but it's still keeping that climbing. And then to cancel, it is just a matter of pressing the home button or the cancellation button. And you can see straight away that it says that the cruise control has stopped and the aircraft has applied the brakes. Now when you do use cruise control on the Lito X1, you do have a few limitations. The cruise control options only apply to the actual movement of the drone. So you can still control the forward and backward motion, the ascent and the descent, and the rotation of the drone. You're not going to have any control over the gimbal. Now this applies as well if you're using any of the active track modes. If you try and use an active track along with the cruise control, it's not going to work. It's just going to take you back into the options you got for active track. Nothing to do with the cruise control at all. But on the plus side of that, it does mean that the drone is going to go in the direction that you want it to, and all your time can then be spent on the focusing of the gimbal on the subject you actually want to track. Okay, so that's cruise control covered. It is really a powerful tool, as I just said. Let me know how you do use it, because it would be interesting to hear from you. If you've got any questions in relation to the Lito 1 or the X1, the Mini 4 Pro, the Mini 5 Pro, the DJI Neo or the Neo 2, the Hover Air X1 Pro, Pro Max, or any of the Potensic drones, also let me know in the comments below and I'll do my best to answer you. And like I said, if you could do the like, subscribe, notification bell, the hype, or as I said earlier, there's an option there for buy me a coffee. All that would be greatly appreciated too. And I'll catch you again in the next video in the next couple of days. So thanks for watching and bye.